Our speaker today is James Yoik. He's an Extension Associate here at North Carolina State University with the Extension Forestry program. And with that, James, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Well, welcome everybody. It looks like we've got a good crowd here today, and I don't know how many of you participated in the previous two sections. We had taken a look at the first one at a American Forestry Foundation mapping tool and planning tool called My Land Plan. The second portion of this series, we looked at some other locations where we can take a look at mapping information pertinent to your property. So we were looking at things such as county GIS websites, the Web Soil Survey, things such as natural heritage websites and those sorts of things. So there's lots and lots of really good information out there that's free for you to use. One of the premier opportunities that you have for mapping that's online and it's free is Google Earth. And so we're going to spend a little bit of time today talking about how you can leverage the power of Google Earth, not only as an exploration tool, which really it's a wonderful education and exploration tool, but it's also a wonderful tool for you to be able to store map information pertaining to your property and projects that you're working on, and being able to share that information as well. So we're going to, well, examples today are going to draw primarily from Western North Carolina. We're going to look at a couple of different examples, but we're going to stick primarily to North Carolina, but we could bounce around anywhere in the world. What we'll cover today is we're going to take a quick look at an overview of Google Earth and some of the basic maneuvers, how you maneuver through the screens, how do you use some of the tools, where they are and where things are and what they do within Google Earth interface. And then we'll move into primarily how you go about creating a mapping project for your land. Okay, the benefit of Google Earth is it allows you to look at things in three-dimensional landscapes. So it really allows you to have a really good aspect as to what's going on with your property and how your property relates to the surrounding landscape. So that's one of the nice things about being able to do that. So we'll take a look at creating Google Earth layers for your land, how we can go through and edit those layers, such as the colors, adding descriptive information to it. If we have time today, we'll look at area calculations. If not, we'll reserve that till the next session that we're going to have, I believe, in 2 weeks. And there's a number of different ways of doing it, but we'll take a look at a free website that allows us to do area calculations with Google Earth files. Saving your project, very important, and then and how you can go ahead and share your information, including being able to copy and paste your data into something like a forest management plan. So, Google Earth overview. A little background on Google Earth. The one that we're going to be teaching on today is the free version of it. There is a professional version that is a $400 a year subscription. If you are an educational entity, you might be able, schools are able to get a annual grant that waives that $400 fee, so you could benefit from some of the things that the Pro version does. The Pro version actually calculates acreage for you, which is really nice to be able to do that without having to export your data and all that other stuff. But free is really nice too, so we're going to stick with the free version. Another thing that the Pro version does, it provides is parcel data. Now, I don't know how often it's updated, how current it is, but it does give you an idea of what the parcels look like in areas there. But again, we're going to stick with the free version, which requires us having to, do a few extra things. Download is very simple. It's really kind of I shouldn't say it's a thin client, but it's kind of a medium-sized client. Basically, what that means is most of the horsepower is done on Google Earth side. Their server does most of the work. It stores all the data, except the data that you create. But it stores all the Earth data. So when you're zooming in, zooming out, and all the three-dimensional information, it's all stored on their server, and you're just using it as kind of a mapping service from them. So on our side, we do download data from them, but it definitely has to connect to the internet, all right? Because we're actually running off of their database, all right? So don't think if you download Google Earth onto your computer and you don't have web access that it's going to work. It just doesn't have access to the data. As I said before, the free version of Google Earth does not calculate acreage. There's a number of different third-party vendors out there who supply acreage calculation tools. A free one is offered by the University of New Hampshire's Cooperative Extension, and it's called KML Tools. It does a number of different things besides calculating acreage, and we'll explore that today, like I said, if we have a chance, or in great detail next time around. Another thing that a lot of people ask is, does Google Earth keep your information? Like if I create a property boundary on Google Earth, is everybody in the world going to be able to see that? And the answer is no. You can set it up so that you do share it with the Google Earth community, but by default, what it does is it will store it on your computer. Okay, and so that data that you're creating is always just simply on your computer. It provides you privacy. It also requires you to save your data on your computer. The very first topic that we covered was My Land Plan, and this little MLP is code for My Land Plan. That's the American Forest Foundation web-based mapping software. It actually automatically saves your data as you're moving through it. But Google Earth does not. So it'll query you when you're quitting Google Earth to save your data, but it won't do it if you don't physically save it. So good thing to remember. So what we're going to do real quick, first of all, is to understand what the KML file is. All right, so we're going to meet the keyhole markup language. And what is it, and what does it all mean? When we're talking about Google Earth data format, the native format that Google Earth stores data in is the keyhole markup language, or KML. Okay. Now, why are they calling it that? Well, a little background on that is Google had bought out the originator of this particular software. It was originally called Keyhole Earth Viewer by Keyhole Incorporated, and they were only up and running for about 2 or 3 years. They developed this, basically this hypertext markup language that deals with spatial or mapping capabilities, and they called it Keyhole. And basically, the term Keyhole was a nod to the old, what they called the eye in the sky satellites. They're about 50 years old now. They're actually called Keyhole satellites, or Keyhole reconnaissance satellites. The people who developed this language were actually making use of a lot of that satellite data. And if you're as old as I am, you might remember back in the early 2000s when CNN was doing a lot of reporting on the Iraqi invasion. A lot of the mapping stuff was actually done by Keyhole. So when they would zoom in on parts of the globe and zoom in where the action was over in Afghanistan. Oh, sorry, it was the Afghanistan, and not Iraq. And but that was all done via Keyhole Incorporated. So just a little bit of background on it. It's Google bought them up, and they've kept the name Keyhole Markup Language. This right here is an example of it. I want you to all memorize this. There's going to be a quiz on this at the end. No, just kidding. But if anybody's ever seen HTML, it's basically the same idea as HTML, only it has spatial capabilities. There's a zipped format of it called which is given the .kmz, okay, extension, and it works exactly the same as a KML file. Google Earth can read either one. You don't have to unzip a KMZ file, fortunately, in order to use it in Google Earth. It reads both of them. Some of the third-party software that's out there only reads KML, so you have to save it as KML before using that. So we'll see that when we go to do the acreage calculations later. So moving on, let's take a look at some of the basic maneuvers of Google Earth. We're going to be spending quite a bit of time with me doing my sharing of my desktop, which means things slow down. So I've got another desktop here that I'm watching myself on as the screen is refreshing, and I'm going to try to go as slow as my screen is refreshing so that I don't get too far ahead of y'all. All right, so what we'll do is we'll take a look at navigating through Google Earth, what some of the tools are, and very important, setting the three-dimensional terrain feature on it. Really neat thing that you can do with Google Earth is go through historical imagery. Then we'll take a look at the three important things on the left-hand side of every Google Earth screen is the search tools, the different layers that they have, and then places. And places is very important because that's actually where we store our project data. So I'm going to jump out at this point in time, and if I get the chance, I'll come back and take a look at some of the steps that are used in creating a project. But you'll get an idea as we go along here. So I'm going into application sharing now, and I'm going to share my desktop with y'all. And I have Google Earth already up and running here. I'm going to I'm going to actually close it and open up my let's see, I'm going to open up Google Chrome here really quick and just show you where you can go and download the data or the Google Earth application. You just basically you Google Earth. Pretty easy. And you'll see Google Earth. You might see one that says download Google Earth. They give you plenty of opportunities to download Google Earth. So right up here, waiting for things to catch up. It's taking its sweet time here. But here on this screen, it gives you the opportunities. It tells you what your various options are. You have Google Earth, and then you have Google Earth Pro, and so you can you can go in and explore each one. But up here in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see download Google Earth. Okay, so I'm not going to do that, but going through the download process is very simple, and again, it doesn't use up a lot of room on your computer. It's most of the work is done on their server. So I'm going to move that out of the way and just open up Google Earth. And what it typically does is it starts off by, and you can turn this off if you want, it starts off by showing you little tips, which is kind of nice. You can kind of read through the daily tips as you load it up and get some idea of maybe some of the new things that are going on with Google Earth. I'm going to close that up. And here's your basic screen. I'm going to try to make it large enough that you all can see pretty much what's going on. All right, so the basic maneuvers of Google Earth. As soon as it gets done loading here. Okay, looks like the refresh is caught up. So it usually just starts off by zooming you in at an Earth level view there. You have a number of different tools here on the side. Okay, you have a zoom in, and so it's zooming me in, and I can either drag that up or drag it down. I have zoom out. This tool button up here allows me to turn the direction. So if I just grab the N up at the top and turn it around, now I've got the north facing to the left-hand side of my screen. So that allows you to turn your view any direction you want. Unlike most of our maps where we have north up to the top, this allows you to look at your map at whatever direction suits you the best, which is kind of a nice feature. And you also have kind of a navigate tool here, okay? And you can play around with these. I'm just using my mouse on this. If you kind of hold the mouse in between the arrows there, in this case it'll navigate me to the south and west. Okay, so those are all pretty important. I don't use these a whole lot. I use my mouse for navigating more often than not. So I know it's still refreshing, but I'm gonna grab the U.S. right here and just drag it. I'm holding the left side of my mouse down, and it just grabs it and drags it. Okay, so your left mouse button drags it back and forth, up and down. Okay, or what we call panning. If you have a roller bar in the middle of your a roller wheel in the middle of your mouse, if you roll it forward, it zooms you in. I'm zooming into North Carolina quite a bit. I'm going to go to kind of the western part of the state. Yeah, this looks pretty good. So let this catch up. All right, so look at Haywood County, kind of in the middle of the screen here, just to the west of Asheville, and I'm going to roll her in on it, and so that allows me to zoom in, and it's pretty impressive how good the photography is on that. I mean, it's not bad at all. We've got some really nice, pretty clear. You can almost tell what sort of vehicles you've got there. I'm zooming in as far as I can get now, and you can see it's not bad photography once it gets done refreshing for you. So you can't tell individual trees, or species of trees, but you can certainly tell the difference between hardwoods and softwood forests. And to get you'd probably get enough texture that you could tell if it's an older stand or a younger stand and those sorts of things. So, so that's the zoom on it. And one couple of other things I want to point out to you down here at the bottom. I've got a scale down here. It's always good to print that out when you're doing a screen capture or printing, so that you know what scale you're looking at your map in. Another important thing is the imagery date. Really nice to know. This was actually just not even a year ago. So a lot of times it's taken during leaf off. We'll take a quick look at the history, historical imagery, and in just a minute. It also gives you your coordinates. Wherever I'm moving my cursor, those coordinates are moving around with it. Okay, so and then a couple of other nice things are let me see. It looks like I've got a. I'm going to move this up a little bit. I have this message that keeps popping up on my screen there. Another thing that you can see is the elevation and the eye altitude. They're two different things. Okay, the elevation is actually the ground elevation. Okay, so wherever you move your cursor, that's telling you what the elevation is on the ground. Very nice to know. The eye altitude is how far above the ground your eye is. Okay, so as I zoom out, you can see that the eye elevation or the eye altitude changes. So couple of good things to know. So if you want to be at bird's eye level, you can zoom out to your 10,000 feet above the ground and those sorts of things. So, all right, so important information at the bottom, a lot of status information, information about your scale, and then your north arrow is primarily this up over here. All right. All right, so let's take a quick look at some of these other things that we have here. Some of the more important ones are under File. You have File, Save, and what we're going to be doing is a lot of times when we're saving our projects are going to be stored in My Places, okay, which is one of the items on the left-hand side of the screen. So My Places is where your projects are stored, and if you want Google Earth to always open up your project every time you open up Google Earth, then you just save My Places, and every time you open Google Earth back up again, you'll see your projects. Like all these are projects that I have saved to My Places here. Okay, and we're going to see how to do that in a little bit. There's some edit things that you can do, copying and stuff like that, copying and pasting. We're not going to worry too much about that. You can turn on and off certain things. So this toolbar right here, I could turn that on and off with this. The sidebar will turn off this sidebar right here. If I want to go full screen, I just click that, and then there's a way to get back out of full screen, obviously. You could turn on a grid if you want to see your favorite grid. I've just turned it on. You can see these white lines now. And I could look at that in either lat long, or I could look at it in UTM coordinates. Let me turn the grid off. You could actually have an overview map pop up, and you could zoom in. Obviously, I don't necessarily want to see where it is in the world, but I could actually zoom into North Carolina and see where I am in North Carolina with that. And then I can turn on and off the scale. I'm going to turn off that tour guide thing. Another thing that's really kind of neat is you can actually turn the sun on and off. And you could set what time of day that the sun is out, so you could see shadow effects based on the topography and the terrain and all that. Really neat information. Other important things are you could turn on the ruler so you can measure things. Of course, we got a flight simulator, which is really fun to play with if you got the time. Options is a very important thing for you to know, though. Okay, so under Tools, Options is where you can set your some of your basic options under Google Earth. So if I want to show my lat long in UTM, I could just click down there. If I want to see my elevational exaggeration, right now it's set to 1. So whatever the elevational changes, and we haven't looked at that yet, but whatever the elevational changes, I can look at that at 1, or I can set it to as high as 3, which turns the southern Appalachians into the Himalayas. And so there's a number of different things you can turn on and off, but that's the elevational exaggeration is very important, and that's actually probably the most important one of that whole group in there. So I'm going to leave it at 1. First of all, I'm going to go to a favorite mountain of mine in Clyde, if I can find it. And we'll zoom in on Chambers Mountain here. And what I'm doing is I'm holding the roller wheel down, and I just move up or down with my mouse. And that will give it a chance to catch up. That actually tips you to an oblique view. And so now your three-dimensional view really starts to pop out. And we'll let that just zoom in. I'll take a sip of coffee while we're waiting. So here's a mountain in Haywood County, and that's what it looks like at 1. If I go back into Tools and click Options and set that to 3 and hit OK, all of a sudden, I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can get a better view. But it just absolutely, it grows the mountain to 3 times its size. So if you really want to try to impress somebody, you can say, you know, I've walked up to the top of that mountain, set it to 3 times the height, and then they'll surely be impressed with your hiking abilities. So here it comes. It looks like it's finally refreshing. It's a lot of information moving through the internet right now, and these are pretty high graphics. And unfortunately, our Collaborate software doesn't refresh that as fast as it should. But you can get an idea of what that looks like now with the 3D. And so I'm going to go back and set that to 1, and click OK. We have a much more realistic view of the world here. So I'm going to go ahead and just set it to kind of a bird's eye view, and we'll take a look at some of these other tools that are here, menu items. You have Add, and you can add a folder, a line feature, which they call a path, a point feature, which they call a placemark, and a polygon feature. So that's our basic mapping elements right there: points, lines, and areas. And we can actually create these things and store them in project folders and save them. So really good, to be able to do that. One thing about these tools up here is a lot of the things that are on the menu items are also found in these tools. Like, for instance, a little thumbtack right here, that's your add a place mark or a point feature. That kind of the polygon looking feature there is just what it says. It's add a polygon or an area feature, and then add a path, and that's a line feature. You could also add your own imagery as well, and we'll talk about this next week, how to add your own imagery to this. So you can also record a tour, which is kind of fun, and we're not going to get into that right now, but that allows you to set numerous different points on Google Earth and have it go from one place to the other and create a little tour for you. This tool right here is really neat. Especially if you're trying to get a good feel for what some of the historical data is. I'm not sure what we're going to find here, but we'll zoom in a little bit and we'll try the historical photography. So it's going to refresh here. While it's refreshing, I'm going to click that little icon that looks like a clock. And what it does is it puts a, can't quite see it on your screen yet, and we'll give it a minute just to refresh. What it does is it puts a slider bar in the upper left-hand corner of the Google Earth image, and that slider bar, it's getting ready to show up in just a second here, allows you to drag. There it goes. Okay, it's 2013, which is the most recent imagery that Google Earth has for this area, is on the far right. You could drag it back to, you get these little bars that go up and down in the slider bar, and that tells you when the previous available photography is available. So now we're looking at 2009, October 18th. Now we're looking at October 3rd, 2008, and notice this is all leaf on. So it's not as good to be able to differentiate between pines and hardwoods. Leaf off is always really good, but it does allow you to see changes that have taken place and what it looks like over time. Now it's going. I'm back in 2006, so I've moved back about 7 years in time, and you might see some substantial changes. particularly if you're if the area is undergoing a lot of development, or if it's very active in terms of the forest management or other management activities out there. You could actually see these changes taking place. I've actually identified the age of pine stands. I could see when they were not, when they were just freshly planted, go back a year or a couple of years prior to that, and there's, it might have been either a mature stand or it might have just been open. So that lets you know that those pines had not been planted yet, and those sorts of things. So you can get a really good feel in certain cases. Here's a 2005, and we'll go all the way back when the world was black and white, and that's 1995. So that's the beginning of the world, is according to Google Earth. Now, there's some older imagery, but the early 90s, mid 90s is about as far back as you're going to go with a lot of this stuff. So we'll go back to, I'm going to just let that refresh really quick for you. There we go. We'll go back to 2013, and this was, the imagery date was March 18th, so this is when a lot of aerial photography is flown, right in early spring, and it's a perfect time to do it. The air is really clear, and the leaves are usually off the trees, so it really helps you to kind of see what's going on the ground. Okay, now, so a little bit of the historical stuff. This is, I'm going to turn that off, and this tool button up over here is, again, just like under view sunlight. This is the, you can actually get the sunlight to drape across the sky at different times of day. This is kind of neat because you can switch between Google Earth, Google Sky, Google Mars, and Google Moon, and just to save time, I'm not going to do that, but you really need to spend some time and go out and play with this. There is a wealth of really neat information. Sky covers pretty much all the constellations and a lot of astronomical information. Google Mars and Google Moon are exactly what they say. You can go and explore Mars based on our satellite imagery of it, and same with the Moon. This is a measure tool. Over, obviously, it's a little ruler there. Right now, the only thing I can measure are lines and paths, which is a series of lines. Okay, so to measure a line, or let's just do a path. I just click, and as I'm clicking, it continues to measure that distance there. And I can look at that in a number of different units. So if I want to look at it in feet or in miles or yards or whatever. And it gives you the option. They kind of taunt you here. They say, okay, we've got Pro over here, and oh, look, you can calculate areas and perimeters if you only upgrade now to Google Pro. So we're not going to do that. Here's where you can export some information. You can email it to people. You can print it. You could save an image, and it just saves it as a JPEG on your computer. And then you could also open up Google Maps, which is the full-blown, it's the complete web-based mapping system that Google uses. So again, Google Maps, you don't have to load any software onto your computer. You just go out to the web and type in Google Maps, and it takes you to it. But Google Earth allows you to create your own files and store them on your computer, which is really nice. On the left-hand side of Google Earth, we have these three sections here. We have the search, places, and layers. And you could minimize them if you want, or open them up by hitting the little triangles that are next to them, okay? So I'm going to minimize places, and we'll just look at layers really quick. Notice I've got roads showing up on Google Earth with names on them. If I scroll out, you get highways. You scroll out even further, you actually get county boundaries. And you can turn that on and off with these layers over here, okay? So borders and labels, obviously we'll turn off cities and city labels and county boundaries, state boundaries, and those sorts of things. Roads, will turn off the roads. Okay. There's also a wealth of stuff you could turn on and off in Google Earth. So, by all means, spend some time exploring what some of that information is. And you can, if you go to certain areas, like around Raleigh, a lot of the buildings have been digitized in 3 dimensions, so you can actually get a 3-dimensional view of the buildings. So, just lots of neat stuff to play with there. So that's what layers are. It's where you turn stuff on and off, some of your basic information. Search is, I'm going to minimize layers, and search is just like search in Google Maps. So let's say I want to go to Cairo, if I can spell it right, Cairo, Egypt. Okay. Don't get any A's for spelling today. Boom, it just takes me over there. And we're waiting for the refresh. Of course, it's really fun when this is you're seeing this on your own computer, because it just flies you across the ocean straight into Cairo. All right, and if I wanted to know, if I had an address, a very specific address I wanted to go to, I'm going to go to my address. Oh, it already recognizes it. And it's taking me there. So you could just buzz around the world if you know where you're going, and it's zooming me into a very close location to Google Earth. Google Earth is so, the satellite imagery is so good. I can see, I know, I could actually see my little Mini Cooper in there, and as soon as it refreshes, you could probably pick it out. So you could actually tell certain car types with this imagery. It's that clear. So search is wonderful. All right, you can search by addresses. There it is. There's my little Mini, right by the hand there. You could search by address. You could search crossroads, and just like Google Maps, you can actually get directions between things too. So search is a really wonderful tool. When I'm talking with a landowner on the phone, I'll get their address from them, and while I'm talking to them on the phone, I'm looking at their property. So it's a really excellent thing to be able to use. Okay, so, and then the last thing, which is really the meat of what we want to use Google Earth for between today and next week, is we're going to be using My Places to actually create projects. Okay, just so you can see, the steps for creating a project are very simple. So I want to show you what a project could look like. Here's one I've got in Haywood County. I'm just going to zoom to it. And what we have here, and I know you can't see anything yet because I haven't turned anything on, and it's still refreshing for you. So we'll just look on the left-hand side under My Places. Under Places, so there are two locations. There's My Places and Temporary Places. If you import information into Google Earth, it's going to automatically throw it into Temporary Places, and it won't save it. When you quit Google Earth, it'll delete it. It'll ask you if you want to save it, and if it does, then it actually will stick it in My Places for you. If you say no, it just deletes it. But it always clears out Temporary Places when you shut off Google Earth. My Places, on the other hand, are your permanent projects. And so for each property boundary I might be working on, I might go ahead and create a different project. And if you can see here, I've got a little project folder. I create the folder first, and then I put all my data layers inside the folder. So everything that's in what you see is management units, soils, and parcels are all under that. Okay, so if I want to turn on that information, I just click the little checkbox, and I've got all kinds of good stuff here. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is to show you the parcels. So that's the parcel information. If I click on that, in this case, I actually had the opportunity to use the county boundary data, or the county GIS data that was in ArcGIS shapefile format. ArcGIS has the capability of converting to KML format, and anything that's in the database from ArcGIS gets pulled in the KML file and all organized. So it's really nice. There's a ton of information. This is just the GIS, the county GIS information or county tax information associated with that parcel. There's another parcel there and another parcel here. Okay, so I've got 3 parcels in this project. Actually, I have 4. There's the 4th one, right? And so all that got carried over. Some other information. And this was what I actually had to create, because I wasn't, you know, of course, county mapping offices do not create management units for you. So what I have here are these management units. I'm going to turn off parcels. So when I click on the management units, the information that I created for those management units are pull up. Okay, so all the good info that I've stored about each one of these management units in terms of the acreage, what the forest use is, and a little description has been stored. And that's every time I open up Google Earth, that comes back with it. Very nice to have. I also had the opportunity in this project to get soils information, and so here's all the soil series information that I was able to glean. In this case, I believe I got the soils from the Haywood County mapping office, and I clipped it out using ArcGIS and pulled it in here. So having ArcGIS as a tool for getting data into Google Earth is really beneficial. A lot of times we don't have that opportunity, so we have to create a project from scratch, and we're going to explore this a lot more next week, but we'll just look at the beginnings of it right now. Okay, so the first thing I would want to do when I'm creating the project is go to My Places and do a right mouse click and click on Add, and the very first item there is Folder. Okay, so I'm just going to call this Property Project number 1, and I can type in a description for it and all that good stuff. I don't need to, though. So all this does is it creates a folder under My Places. All right. Now, under Property Project, if I highlight it and then hit the right mouse button, I have Add, Placemark, Path, Polygon. All right, so that's how I can create my point, line, and area. And I could also create it by clicking on these here, but this ensures when I right mouse click it here and click Add, this ensures that it's going to store this feature in that folder. So let's just start off with a polygon, and I'll just say, I'm just going to call this the parcel. I'm just making this up, but assuming you know what your parcel looks like on the ground. So I jumped the gun. I actually hit OK. Well, what you see here is this. This is what they call the properties window here, and I could type in under the description of just some quick description so you can see how it pops in, and what when I'm editing, this window has to be open. If I click OK, I basically have quit the edit process. All right. So if I move the cursor out over here, you can see I've got these crosshairs, and so as I start clicking around on the property, you can see my polygon is starting to get built. Okay. Now, I may not want to see white. It kind of covers up what I'm trying to see. So under the description or the properties window, I go to Style and Color, and see I'm looking at the area right here. It's set to filled and outlined. Really, all I want is it to be outlined. Okay, so now it's a white line, and under lines here, notice the color is set to white. So I can go ahead and change that to, let's say, yellow, and hit OK. And I can make the thickness of the line a little wider. You could, I don't know if you can see it clearly, but it's getting thicker and thicker as I click that. So as I keep on, I go back out here and I can continue clicking on my property and get that shape just the way I want it. If I need to move anything, I put the cursor over one of the vertices, and you can see the hand right there, the pointer. I could drag that and move it. Okay, so it allows you to, you're not stuck with what you've originally clicked. You can go zoom way in and tailor make this. Okay, so what we have right here is I hit OK. It stored it. I've got property project, and there's the parcel. If I actually go and click on it, there's the descriptive information. And you can make that as elaborate as you want. And again, next week we'll play around with that a lot more and try to get a lot more details with it as to how you can tailor this thing, how you can pull more information in, and those sorts of things. Of course, doing the line is pretty much the same thing. Got a road system going through. Hit OK. I could type in information about that. And then for points, as I click on the little point tool, I can actually give it a name. I'll call it house. And right here I can change the marker for it. And let's see, see if I got a picture of a house here. I know there's one here somewhere. Just it's not. There we go. Well, that's actually a school, but we'll go with that. And click OK. I can move that. So long as I haven't closed this properties window, I can edit it, move it around, and then click OK. All right. So I now have these 3 layers of information inside my property project folder. When I'm all done for the day, or periodically I want to do this, I go up to File, Save, and Save My Places. Okay, so it's saved. Next time I open up Google Earth, it'll pop right back in. Another thing I might want to do is go File, Save, and Save Place As. And that'll store it on, I select which folder I want to go to. And notice it's going to save it as a KMZ. I could also save it as a KML. So either way, you have that opportunity. I'll save it as a KML, and it'll just be called parcel. Everything in that, all that stored was that one area. If I go up here and go Save Place As, it'll save that whole folder. Okay, that's kind of nice to know. So you can pick and choose any one of these, or you can pick the whole folder and save it. And email it to a friend. They open it up in Google Earth and they can see what you were working on. Well, with that, I think I am going to have to go back and unshare my, let me see, where do we do that? Whiteboard. Okay. So what we looked at really quickly was creating the project, creating the folder in My Places, creating, and next time we'll spend a little bit more time looking at how you can edit your parcel data. And then we'll actually create management unit data within the parcel. We'll take a look at creating and editing things such as water features and roads, and then other points of interest. So KMLs, one thing I do want to point out to folks is that KML files can be created directly from a county mapping office. Just about every mapping office uses some form of ESRI or ArcMap tools or software. ArcMap, like I said before, directly converts to a KML format. And what we were looking at that previous project all the database information gets carried over as well. There are a couple of counties in North Carolina that actually directly convert from your county website to a KML format for you, and they're listed on these slides here. I will demonstrate this next time around. Okay. Another thing that you could do to get data into ArcGIS is to download data directly from or copy an image that shows your parcel boundary from the county mapping office, and pull that image into Google Earth and digitize off of that. And I'll demonstrate that as well next week. So many ways to share. You can print directly, or you can embed it from a into like a Word document. You can copy and paste it using the screen print or the Windows snipping tool. If you need some information on that, email me and I'll walk you through that. And then share with the client who has GE. You can, with Google Earth. You can email that KML from Google Earth. And you could also post it to Google Maps if you want to share it online with folks. So next week, topics that we'll include are, again, more details on creating and editing these KML files, taking a look at some of the aerial images and image overlays. I could spend a quick 5 minutes showing GPS import and then embedding photos from your website too, or from your cameras. So anyway, my advice is to go out and give it a try. Go out and start playing around, creating. You're not going to break anything, so create some points, lines, and areas and play with it and try storing it. I have given, if you all noticed, the first thing you got when you logged into the webinar was a copy of what I call the Google Earth Basics, and I'll go over that a little bit next week as well, just some of the information. But download that, take a look at it. It walks you through a lot of the steps that I had gone over today. So with that, I'll leave it with Bob.
Okay, thanks, James. I know we have several questions to go through here, and we'll get through those here in a second. I just want to push out the link to the post-evaluation, and if you're working on continuing education credits, there'll also be a short quiz and a form for you to fill out. I'll send that out here in the there in the chat window. You can copy that link and then paste it into your browser, save it for later. But I'm also going to push it out through Collaborate here, and just realize that with that it's going to launch your browser, and it may take a little bit. There's 170, 160 of us now on the system, and it's trying to launch that. So it just told me invalid. Hold on a second here, folks. Probably got an extra space at the beginning there. Yep. So, okay, so we'll go through questions while that's loading on your computer, and I'm going to actually go back towards the very beginning. And there was a question on what is the accuracy of the latitude and longitude showing at the bottom of the screen when you had Google Earth up there, James?
Oh, geez, I don't know how accurate it is. It's a three-dimensional model based on a sphere, and it's probably based on, as accurate a model as they can put together. The thing that I think of when I'm thinking about the accuracy is the accuracy of the satellite imagery that's sitting on top of it. Sometimes it could be off by about 10 or 20 feet. So where the coordinate of where you're holding the cursor, I can't speak to the accuracy of that, but the photograph is a lot of times is not as good as it could be, because they're patching together a lot of imagery that's taken from a long distance away.
All right. Next question up is, it says, can you add layers of your own? What file formats are supported? and then shape files.
You can take ArcGIS files in shapefile format and convert them to KML within ArcGIS, and that will pull it into the free version of Google Earth. The professional version, the $400 a year subscription, will support shapefiles directly from ArcGIS, so you don't have to go through that conversion.
And then here's a question on what is the source of the county parcel information that you used, and did you bring that into Google Earth, or was that already, or did you get it by Google Earth?
That parcel data was downloaded from the Haywood County GIS. A lot of counties, every county is different, so you have to check with the county folks. I work with ArcGIS all the time, so for me it was no issue to download the county level GIS, select the parcel, and convert that to KML format. That may not be so easy for other folks. My suggestion is to talk to the county mapping office, ask them if they can, give them your parcel identification number, ask them if they can convert that to a KML file for you. If they're using ArcGIS, it should not be a problem for them to do it. And they can email you that KML file, and you can run it right in Google Earth with no problems at all.
Okay, somebody's looking for a quick comparison between Google Earth and AFF My Land Plan.
The My Land Plan is a really nice application. It's brand new, and it's somewhat limited in some of the capabilities, but nevertheless it's really good for creating some quick and basic parcel information or land management information, but it doesn't do things like measurement calculation. It does do an area calculation for you, which is nice, but you can't go and measure. You don't have like a measure tool and those sorts of things. You have a lot more information at your fingertips in Google Earth, as you plainly can see from today.
So here's a question. What's the difference between a KML file and a KMZ file?
They're the same file. KMZ just simply represents that it denotes that it's a zipped format of the KML, and Google Earth reads both of them. You don't have to convert, you don't have to unzip a KMZ file in order for Google Earth to read it. It'll read it directly. Okay.
Somebody's wondering, what is MU data?
That was just my little nomenclature for a management unit.
Okay.
I think that pertaining to a file that I had, or one of my layers. Yeah.
So the next question actually is for me. When will the video be posted? The archive video will be posted most likely later this afternoon. If not this afternoon, tomorrow sometime. And you can find it under previous webinars on forestrywebinars.net. Okay, another question. Will different layers be correctly georeferenced in the right datum, etc.?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
They're wondering if the different layers will be correctly georeferenced.
Yes, just by virtue of the fact that you're digitizing it on a georeferenced backdrop, which is what Google Earth is, they are georeferenced. Of course, you know, whatever accuracy you have with your aerial photography that you're digitizing off of is going to affect the absolute accuracy of it.
All right. So another person's wondering, when they open Google Earth, the toolbar does not show up. Is there a way to turn that on? Or
yes,
how do they get the toolbar?
Click on View and then Toolbar.
Okay, with that, I'd like to bring today's webinar to an end. I'd like to thank James for all of his time putting this together. And if you have further questions of James, I'm sure he does not mind being contacted, and you can reach him at, whoops, jumped one too many slides. There at James Joik at JAJEUCK@ncsu.edu. And
or give me a call.
Follow up with you.
Mm-hmm.
Or give him a call at 919-515-5574. Thank you, everybody. Have a good afternoon.